with Advocate Tembeka Ngcukaitobi on his book, The Land Is Ours, South Africa's First Black Lawyers and the Birth of the Constitution. So we've been talking about the book, we've been talking particularly about the land, but I want to change tack a little bit, and I think one of the questions that I need to pose to you here is, I mean, you are one of the advocates that has witnessed firsthand how legal victories are being undermined by politics in a contemporary South Africa. What lessons can we take from the first black lawyers who had to face the same and more?
Yes, I think the one is fidelity to the law, because even though the politics have changed, the necessity to comply with a constitutional system has remained essentially the same. And even under contemporary South Africa, we come back to the same topic, whether the president is Nelson Mandela or whether the president is Thabo Mbeki or, for that matter, Jacob Zuma. Legal principle never changes. It always remains the same. So I think the greatest lesson that the first generation of black lawyers have taught South Africa is fidelity to the ideals, the values that underpin a constitutional system.
Now, when we look at what's happening right now, I mean, this is uncharted waters for the country, for South Africa. This is unprecedented. We've never seen anything quite like this, never mind within the ranks of the ANC. Let's talk a little bit about constitution now.
Yes.
Constitutionally, does the ANC actually have grounds to recall President Jacob Zuma?
Well, so it depends on what the position is, what approach they want to take. So the Constitution itself contains two provisions regarding the removal of the president from office. The one is Section 89, which is what generally is referred to as impeachment. This other is Section 102, which is a motion of no confidence. Both of those can only take place under the supervision of Parliament. So the ANC, as a dominant party in Parliament, could sponsor one of those two motions. It could sponsor an impeachment proceedings. There is already a judgment by the Constitutional Court that gives a framework for impeachment proceedings. The second is that it could sponsor a motion of no confidence. Now, if it sponsors a motion of no confidence, it's sufficient that it no longer has confidence in the president. That is sufficient to trigger a recall. But that is a process to be undertaken by Parliament. On the other hand, an impeachment is premised on grounds of misconduct or violation of the Constitution. Already, there is a prima facie case as in relation to a possible impeachment, and already there is a process underway in Parliament. So what they would have to do, at least constitutionally speaking, is to support a motion of no confidence or to initiate a motion of no confidence in Parliament.
Yeah, which, I mean, the repercussions of that for the ruling party, for the ANC, to have to turn to Parliament and work with opposition parties to get rid of the president of our country. I mean, what will that do for the ruling party?
Well, I mean, what the Constitution provides is, so if what they do is they sponsor an impeachment will only affect the president, and if he is found guilty in an impeachment hearing, then of course he should be removed from office. But that only implicates the president as head of state, and the consequences of that are relatively straightforward. There should be an acting president, and thereafter the ANC must then decide whether or not it wants to second a different candidate as president. On the other hand, if they follow the motion of no confidence process under Section 102 of the Constitution, his entire cabinet must then be dissolved. What will then happen is that Section 86(3) will come into effect. There will be an acting president. Because there will be no cabinet, what the Constitution provides then is that the acting president would be the speaker. She would then be under an obligation to convene an election of the president within 30 days on a date to be decided by the Chief Justice, but not later than 30 days. But that process, again, should be a relatively smooth process, because it will be a process of appointing a president, again sponsored by the National Assembly, and thereafter the president will then reconstitute his cabinet. So although it might look from a political point of view as sort of uncharted territory, the fact is that there is a clear constitutional framework to govern the transition of power. Yeah. So there is in fact no major constitutional crisis as such.
Yeah. So just on a final clarity version for us, because I think people are asking these questions. If there is a vote of no confidence in the president, he loses, if we're correct, all presidential benefits if that vote of no confidence succeeds. Does that happen?
No. If he is voted through Section 102, in other words, because they no longer have confidence in his ability as president, he retains all of his benefits as president, including the title. If, on the other hand, he is removed via an impeachment,
yes,
then the Constitution provides that he will lose his benefits as president.
Okay, so that's the difference between the impeachment and the vote of no confidence.
Precisely.
Yeah.
Because the motion of no confidence is not predicated upon a finding of wrongdoing on his part. It's simply predicated on the idea that the ANC no longer trusts him, no longer believes that he is the right candidate to remain as president. On the other hand, if he is impeached, an impeachment is based on misconduct on his part or a gross violation of the Constitution. And so if that happens, the Constitution provides that he will lose the benefits. So it depends on what route they elect to follow. Of course, the quicker and the simpler route is a motion of no confidence because the threshold is only 51%.
Yeah, and they are still trying to figure out the whole impeachment situation as well.
And
that's still, again,
yes,
something that Parliament's working on.
Yes, and there is no framework as yet for an impeachment, so that might take a little bit longer.
Yeah.
There is, of course, the third option, which is that the man can simply resign.
Which doesn't look like it's going to happen. But we will find out this afternoon, maybe, you think? Listen, I don't know, but what I do know is that if you want to read a book from a genius mind, this is the book that you need to read. Is everything sorted with exclusive books, by the way?
I hope today they've restocked. They were out of stock on Friday and Saturday. They were sold out in the Johannesburg shops. I spoke to Benjamin Trisk on Sunday, and he told me that they would be restocking today or Wednesday.
Fantastic. Well, it's something you need to get a copy of, and I know it's doing the rounds on WhatsApp. Should people delete it if they do have a copy?
Yes, well, the problem is that it's not available, so I would think that they should read it, and when it becomes available, they should go and buy it.
You can buy it.
Yes.
Yeah, I know. I did the same with the Jacques Poe book.
Yeah.
I had it on WhatsApp, and I just couldn't bring myself to read it. And then as soon as I could buy a copy, I bought one. So please do the same thing. Let's support these great minds that have worked so hard. And that great mind I'm talking about is Tembeka Ngcukaitobi, who has written this incredible book, The Land is Ours. It's causing a stir, and it's putting the facts on the table for the past and for us to look to the future to change things the way they stand right now. Thank you and good luck, and we really appreciate your
Thank you very much.
Your great advice to us here on the program. Let's take a break. We've